There is a stretch of farmland in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, where over 74,000 Amish live in nearly 500 distinct communities. In these communities, when someone dies, no funeral director is called, no hearse arrives, no check is written to a mortuary. The body stays in the house, and the people who loved that person do everything that follows, with their own hands, in their own home, on their own time. The average American funeral now costs between $7,000 and $12,000. The Amish version costs almost nothing. And yet, by every measure that matters, dignity, community participation, psychological support for the bereaved, it accomplishes more. This is Alternate Journals. We document communities that live by systems of belief, tradition, and order outside the modern mainstream. If that interests you, if you want to understand how other people have organized life around fundamentally different assumptions, subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications. We are building something here, episode by episode, and the next one may be the one that changes how you see the world. Today, we are documenting how the Amish care for their dead, from the final breath to the filled grave, and what their refusal to outsource grief reveals about a concept most of us have never heard of: Gelassenheit. Before we describe what happens to the body, we need to understand what happens in the mind. Every Amish funeral, every Amish response to death, is governed by a single theological principle that has no clean English translation. The word is Gelassenheit, roughly pronounced Gelassenheit. Scholars define it as self-surrender, yielding to God's will, resignation, calmness, the deliberate release of the self. Donald Craybill, one of the foremost academic authorities on Amish life, describes it as the instruction to let go, to stop trying to figure things out, to let it be. Karen Johnson Weiner and Stephen Nolt, writing alongside Craybill, call it the deep taproot that nourishes the entire Amish way. It is the opposite of the bold individualism that modern culture rewards. Where mainstream society teaches people to assert, to control, to fight outcomes they dislike, Gelassenheit teaches acceptance. Not passivity, acceptance. The distinction matters. When death arrives in an Amish household, it is received in this spirit. There is grief, deep, real, human grief. But there is no frantic resistance, no desperate negotiation with doctors or machines. The Amish do not typically die in hospitals. They die at home, surrounded by family, and the community receives the loss as the ultimate expression of Gelassenheit, the final surrender to God's higher authority. As one Amish text puts it, God does not make mistakes. This is the lens through which everything that follows must be understood. The washing of the body, the building of the coffin, the hand-dug grave. None of it is performed reluctantly or out of poverty. It is performed as an act of faith, the belief that death belongs to the community and to God, not to an industry. When an Amish person takes their last breath, the sequence that follows is swift and communal. There is no phone call to a funeral home. In many communities, there are no phones in the home at all. Instead, a messenger goes out, by foot, by buggy, and within the hour the community network is active. The bishop is notified. Neighbors begin arriving. Roles are understood without needing assignment, because everyone present has witnessed this process before, most of them many times. Amish funerals are completed within 3 days of death. This is not haste born of carelessness. It is tradition rooted in theology, the belief that the body should return to the earth without unnecessary delay, and reinforced by practicality. The Amish in most communities do not embalm. The body is preserved only with ice. Decomposition sets the clock. Everything that follows must happen within that narrow window. It should be noted that practices vary across the more than 2,000 Amish settlements in North America. Some more progressive communities do use a local funeral home for embalming, particularly where state regulations intersect with their customs. But even in those cases, the body returns to the family home afterward. The family dresses the body. The family controls the process. The funeral industry, if it is involved at all, plays a supporting role at the margins, never the center. The preparation of the body is performed by women of the community, mothers, sisters, neighbors. They have learned what to do by being present when others did it before them. The knowledge moves between generations the same way all essential knowledge moves in Amish life, through proximity and participation, not certification. The body is washed with plain soap and water, no formaldehyde, no arterial injection, no cavity fluid. The Amish view chemical preservation as a violation of the body's intended return to the soil, almost in their framing, a defiance of God's design. After washing, the body is dressed in white. For men, a plain white shirt and trousers. For women, a white dress and cape. Often the same garments worn at her wedding, kept across an entire lifetime for precisely this moment. White for purity, white for resurrection, white for the equality of all souls before God. There are no accessories, no jewelry, no cosmetics. This last detail unsettles many outsiders. In conventional American practice, significant effort and expense go into making the deceased appear lifelike. Skin foundation, color restored to the lips, hair styled as it was in life. The goal is an approximation of sleep. The Amish reject this entirely. The dead person looks dead. There is no performance of vitality. The community regards cosmetic restoration as dishonest, a refusal to accept what has happened, a failure of Gelassenheit itself. The body is then laid on a simple wooden cooling board in the home, surrounded by blocks of ice that family members replace around the clock. Someone is always present. The deceased is never left alone. While the women attend to the body, the men build the coffin. Not select one, not purchase one. Build it from raw lumber, typically completing the work within a single day. The wood is pine or poplar, inexpensive, local, unpretentious. Some communities use reclaimed lumber from old barns. The theology is embedded in the material choice. The coffin exists to hold the body until it becomes dust, and any material that exceeds that purpose is wasteful. The shape is hexagonal, wider at the shoulders, narrower at the head and feet, conforming to the body and using less wood than a rectangular casket. Traditional joinery replaces nails in many communities. The finished coffin may be left as bare wood or painted a plain color. No varnish, no polish, no decorative carving. The interior is bare wood, perhaps covered with a simple cloth. No satin lining, no cushioned pillow. The Amish view padded casket interiors, which can add hundreds or thousands of dollars to a conventional funeral bill, as absurd. Comfort provided to a body that can no longer feel. Consider the cost contrast. The average American casket runs $2,000 to $5,000, with premium options exceeding $10,000. An Amish coffin, built by community members from local wood in a single day, costs virtually nothing beyond the materials. The labor is given freely. The skill has been passed down for generations. We are halfway through this episode, and if you have made it this far, you are the kind of viewer this channel was built for. Alternate Journals is not about clickbait or shock value. It is about documenting worlds that operate on different assumptions, and the Amish approach to death is one of the most striking examples we have covered. If you are not yet subscribed, now is the time. Hit subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a comment telling us which detail in this episode surprised you most. Your engagement directly determines whether this channel reaches more people. Every comment, every like, every share pushes this into the feed of someone who needs to see it. Now, the viewing, the funeral, and the grave. For 2 to 3 days, the home becomes the center of community life. The coffin sits in the largest room, and visitors arrive continuously, by buggy, on foot, in a current that begins at dawn and does not stop until late evening. This is not the brief visitation familiar to mainstream culture. People stay. They sit with the family for long stretches. They pray. They speak quietly in Pennsylvania Dutch. They eat together because the women of the community have organized a continuous provision of meals that arrives without the family needing to ask. Children are present throughout, and this is deliberate. Toddlers move through the room. Older children sit near the coffin, look inside, ask questions that are answered plainly. According to first-hand accounts from within Amish communities, parents will lift small children up to see the deceased, not to frighten them, but to teach them. A child who has seen a grandmother prepared by her own mother, who has watched a coffin built in a neighbor's workshop, who has stood at the edge of a grave and heard soil strike wood, that child grows into an adult who is not paralyzed by mortality. Something that surprises outside observers. These gatherings are not entirely somber. Laughter and social visiting occur before and after the formal elements. People share meals, catch up with relatives who have traveled from distant settlements, sometimes from other states entirely. One first-hand account describes attendees arriving from across Indiana, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Ohio for a single funeral. The gathering holds both grief and life simultaneously. The Amish do not separate the two. The funeral service takes place in the home, or, for larger communities, in a barn or outbuilding. One eyewitness account describes a funeral where 600 people attended, 500 seated on benches in an outbuilding, another 100 in the basement of the home. The congregation fills the space in plain black clothing. There are no flowers, no photographs, no music of any kind, no hymns sung, no organ, no recorded songs. The Amish consider musical instruments prideful. What remains is scripture, prayer, and sermon. The sermon does not eulogize the deceased. This is one of the sharpest departures from mainstream practice. There are no stories about the person's accomplishments, no tributes to their character, no slideshows or video montages. The Amish regard such focus on the individual as a form of pride. Instead, the sermons, sometimes as many as 4 in a single service, trace the arc of salvation history. One detailed account describes preachers moving from the 7 days of creation through the covenant with Abraham, through the Beatitudes, and concluding with long passages from the book of Revelation. The message is not about the person who died. It is about mortality itself and the living's need to prepare for their own. There is a theological nuance here that matters. Most Amish do not subscribe to the assurance of salvation that many Protestant traditions affirm. They do not say the deceased is in a better place. They speak instead of a living hope, an abiding trust that God will grant faithful followers eternal life, held in humility rather than certainty. For children who die, however, there is a stronger conviction. They are understood to be taken directly by God. After the service, all 600 people, or however many have gathered, file past the open coffin for a final viewing. The bishop reads the name of the deceased and a prayer. The coffin is closed, loaded onto a specially designed hearse wagon, and a procession of black buggies forms for the slow journey to the cemetery. Amish cemeteries are fields of radical equality. Small, identical headstones, bearing only a name, dates, and age, mark each grave. In some Swiss Amish communities, the markers are wooden, carved with only initials, even plainer than stone. There is no way to distinguish wealth from poverty, prominence from obscurity. The theology is written into the landscape. The graves are dug by hand that morning. Men of the community work with shovels, 6 feet into the earth. No backhoe, no mechanical assistance. The coffin is lowered on ropes. There is no concrete burial vault. The Amish believe the body should make direct contact with the soil and decompose as God intended. Then, every man present takes a turn with a shovel, filling the grave completely by hand. The sound of earth striking the coffin lid is not symbolic. It is total. Everyone returns to the home for a communal meal. Long tables appear. Food that community women have been preparing for days is served in shifts, sometimes 2 or 3 seatings to accommodate the crowd. The atmosphere shifts. Memories surface in conversation, not as speeches but as the natural exchange of people who shared a life with someone now gone. In the weeks and months that follow, the support does not disappear. If the deceased was the primary worker, community men maintain the farm. Women bring meals for weeks. The widow or widower wears black for a full year, a visible marker of mourning the community recognizes, granting both space and continued presence. There is no expectation of rapid recovery. There is no cultural script that says grief should be private, efficient, and brief. The Amish model insists on the opposite. Grief is communal, physical, and extended. It is born across an entire network of relationships, not compressed into a long weekend and a sympathy card. And perhaps this is where the contrast is sharpest. The American funeral industry processes millions of deaths per year at a median cost of over $8,000 per service. And that figure excludes cemetery fees, headstones, and ongoing maintenance. Families pay professionals to handle what Amish communities handle themselves: the washing, the building, the digging, the feeding, the watching, the mourning. What is purchased with that $8,000 is convenience. What is lost is harder to price. It is the intimacy of caring for someone's body one final time. It is the shared labor of digging a grave. It is the presence of children who learn that death is a passage, not a horror. It is the knowledge that when your own time comes, you will not be handed to strangers. The Amish do not bury their dead this way because they cannot afford the alternative. They do it because they believe that death, like birth, like work, like worship, belongs to the community, and that surrendering it to an industry diminishes everyone involved. Gelassenheit, the yielding of the self to something larger. Even in death, especially in death, this is how it is practiced. This has been Alternate Journals. Not for spectacle, for understanding. If this episode changed how you think about death, community, or what we have traded away for convenience, do 3 things right now. First, subscribe if you have not already. Second, share this video with one person who would find it meaningful. Third, leave a comment. Would you want your community to bury you this way? Those 3 actions cost you nothing, but they are what allow this channel to keep making episodes like this one. Our next episode continues documenting the structures of Amish and Anabaptist life. You do not want to miss it. Thank you for watching.